Your Social Security check in the Philippines, what it actually buys. Most people doing retirement math in the Philippines are doing it wrong, not because the numbers are hard, but because they're using the wrong numbers. They Google cost of living Philippines, find some blog post that was written during the Obama administration, convert their checks into pesos, and decide it probably works out. Then they get here and reality introduces itself. Reality, not always polite about it. That's a fact. We've discovered that throughout our lives. Now, I'm going to give you actual numbers, 3 different check sizes, 3 completely different lives, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you can buy where and what many never bother to mention until it already cost you. First thing, you need to understand before any of this makes sense, your dollar does not behave the same way in every part of this country. Right now, you're getting somewhere between 58 to 61 pesos per dollar. That sounds like a simple multiplication problem. It isn't, because the Philippines is running 2 completely different economies at the same time. And which one you walk into when you land here determines almost everything about whether your check is enough. Economy 1, rural Philippines, provinces, secondary cities, places where the local market sets the price and the local wage is the benchmark. Your dollar here is a different animal entirely. And then there's economy 2, and that is Manila, Cebu City, BGC, the urban core where international money's been flowing in for decades, and prices, they have followed right along enthusiastically. You can spend Western money in the Philippines faster than you'd believe it. If you're not paying attention, and you need to pay attention, and sometimes even when you are paying attention. Both are real. Both are the Philippines. And the same check that makes you comfortable in one will make you sweat in the other. That's the frame. So we're going to run the numbers. Tier 1, we're talking around, $1,200 a month. Before I get into the monthly breakdown, I need to say something that applies to all 3 tiers. But what matters most is this one. Moving to the Philippines is not free. There are costs here that you eat one time to get set up, and if you don't plan for them before you leave, they're going to punch a hole in your first few months, and that's going to take a long time to recover from. I'm going to break those down after I go through the monthly numbers, so stick around for that part. It'll pay dividends in the end. I put it there on purpose. Now, what $1,200 a month actually looks like on the ground. In a rural area, say Samar, where I live, Leyte, parts of Negros, the quieter end of any island you want to name, rent for a real house runs around 6,000 to 12,000 pesos a month. A finished house with walls, a roof, and a yard, not a room, not a studio, an actual house, call it about, 10,000 pesos to be safe. Today's exchange rate, that's somewhere between 164 to 172, depending on what peso feels like that morning. If you just did a double take, that number is accurate. It's not a typo. Food from the wet market, talking fresh fish, vegetables, rice, eggs, whatever came in that morning, runs a couple eating well somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 pesos a month. Call it $100 to 155. You're not eating badly at that number. You're eating fresher food than most people in the States eat at any budget, which is either inspiring or slightly annoying, depending on how you look at it. Now, utilities, they depend heavily on one thing: how hard you run your AC. This is not a small variable in a tropical country. Run it all day and your electric bill will introduce itself in a way that gets your attention. Run it at night and in one room and you keep it under control. Budget about 3,000 to 6,000 pesos for electric and water combined, depending on your habits and your relationship, of course, with the AC remote. Now, getting around in the province is tricycles, the occasional jeepney, a Grab or Maxim ride where available, and when you need a specific destination. No cars needed in most provincial towns. You may opt for a scooter. That's entirely up to you, but budget around 2,000 pesos a month and you're covered. In the province, everything you need is usually close enough that not owning a car is genuinely fine and not just something people say to feel better about not owning a car. Now, Here's the line item that a lot of people conveniently leave out of their Tier 1 math: health insurance. At this income level, the temptation is to skip it or go bare and hope for the best. I understand that temptation, but also realize that hope is not a medical plan. International health insurance for a man in his late 50s to mid 60s in the Philippines runs roughly about $100, $150 a month and up, depending on your age, your health history, and what the plan actually covers. That's not optional spending at this stage of life. Consider it infrastructure. You need a good foundation. Budget it like rent. At Tier 1, that's somewhere between 58 to 9,100 pesos a month going to insurance before you've touched anything discretionary. Add all of that up: rent, food, utilities, transportation, health insurance, and you're looking at roughly 30 to 38,000 pesos a month for a complete functional life in a rural Philippine province. At today's rates, that's around 490 to 655 on a $1,200 check, which means you still have a little bit left over every month after your basic life is paid for. That's not a rounding error. That's a real margin. Use it wisely. I'll tell you exactly what to do with it here coming up in a few minutes. Now, take that same $1,200 to Cebu City, a clean, safe, livable one-bedroom condo in a decent area of Cebu. Not the fancy end, just respectable. I'm not talking IT Park, a place you wouldn't be embarrassed to have someone visit. Starts around 15 to 20,000 pesos a month. You haven't turned a light on yet. You haven't bought groceries. City supermarkets cost more than the wet market because you're buying imported brands and paying for the real estate the store is sitting on. Add health insurance on top of that. Your fixed monthly costs are eating most of your check before you've done anything optional. You can make $1,200 a week, or you can make $1,200 work in a Philippine city, but it requires a discipline that most people don't show up with when they first arrive somewhere new, and everything is interesting. You want to go out and experience it, which is completely reasonable. It's a human impulse, and it's going to absolutely drain a tight budget if you let it. Bottom line, on Tier 1 rural, it works well. It leaves you room to breathe and save. City, it works if you're extremely careful, but there's no cushion for the months that don't cooperate. And we all know cushions are comfortable, and you'll be happy to have one. Tier 2, $1,800 to $2,000 a month. This is where most American retirees I've actually met in person are operating, and it is definitely a comfortable place to land. In the province, at this level, comfortable is not even quite the right word. You're living well. Rent can go up to 15,000 pesos. You're getting a genuinely nice house, proper layout, guest room if you want one, a nice setup, except that it's surrounded by palm trees and costs a fraction of what you'd pay in the States. You eat pretty much wherever you feel like eating, including the local spot with actual Western food if you can find it on the menu when you want that without doing any math first. You have a vehicle or at least a motorbike. You got a reliable internet most of the time, not just functional, actually fast and mostly consistent. I put mostly in there. It matters more than people admit when they're planning the move, and it matters enormously once you get here. Health insurance at this tier, the same math, but it sits differently in the budget. 100 to 150 a month comes out of a 2,000 check, a lot differently than it comes out of a $1,200 check. At Tier 2, you can also look at slightly more comprehensive plans, ones with better hospital networks, higher coverage, limits, and dental built in rather than treated as a premium add-on that someone clearly thought up specifically to separate you, of course, from your money. It happens everywhere. Budget about $175 to $250 a month at this tier, and you're genuinely in a reasonable place coverage-wise. Now, and you can also travel. You can fly to another island a few times a year. You've got a life, not just a budget. That distinction definitely matters, and it definitely shows. Now, in Cebu, or a comparable city, 1,800 to 2,000 puts you solidly in your comfortable zone. Your apartment is good. The neighborhood is safe. You eat at real restaurants a few nights a week without thinking about it. You're not wealthy by city standards, but you're also not calculating whether you can afford to go out, which is a quality of life improvement that's hard to put a price on, but definitely easy to feel. One thing worth flagging at this tier for city living specifically, unexpected costs. They bite a little bit harder when your margins are thinner than they look. A dental issue, an appliance that dies, a flight back to the States for something you can't reschedule. In the province, at $1,800 to $2,000, you've got a genuine cushion for those moments. In the city, at the same number, the cushion is thinner than the monthly total suggests. That is also where savings enters the conversation in a real way. At tier 2 in the province, most people have between $400 to $600 a month left after all fixed costs, including insurance. If you're not putting at least $200 to $300 of that away every month into an emergency fund, you're one bad event from a very stressful situation. And that is a fact. The emergency fund, it's not glamorous. Nobody's ever posted a photo of their emergency fund on social media saying, "Oh, this is great." But the people who have one sleep better, and the people who don't eventually find out why they should have built one. So here's the tier 2 summary. This is the number where the Philippines stops being something you have to make work and starts being something that works for you, provided you treat savings as a fixed cost and not something you get around to with whatever's left. Here we are at tier 3, $2,500 and above. At $2,500 a month in the Philippines, you're in a different conversation entirely. Not wealthy by Western standards, but free by the standards that matter here day to day. In the province, $2,500 is honestly more than most people need for monthly living. You could rent a well-built house with a real kitchen, proper living setup, something you'd actually be proud to show people for 20,000 pesos and still have well over 2,000 a month for everything else. At today's rate, 20,000 pesos is somewhere between $328 to $345 for a house. I'll let that sit there for a second. Health insurance at this tier can be comprehensive. Real international coverage, solid hospital access, dental included. The kind of plan where you're not reading the fine print at 2 a.m. wondering if that thing that just happened to you is technically covered. Even a premium plan runs $200 to $250 plus a month, and at $2,500, that's a line item, not a burden. Get it right, and you're covered for almost anything short of something requiring long-term treatment back in the States. This is also the tier where building emergency funds stops being aspirational and becomes pretty straightforward. There's no good reason someone in tier 3 is not putting $300 to $500 a month into a liquid reserve. Not invested, not in a term deposit, not tied up in anything that requires 3 business days in a form. Liquid, accessible, sitting somewhere where you can get to it within 24 hours if you need it, because sometimes you need it within 24 hours. In Cebu or Manila, $25,000 to $3,000 a month opens the mid-range condo market fully. International restaurants whenever you feel like it, a gym membership, regular massage, which here is not a luxury, but just a thing people do on Tuesday afternoon like it's perfectly normal. Because here, it's perfectly normal. The lifestyle you're living in the Philippine city at this number would cost you somewhere between 4 and probably 5 times as much in a comparable American city. The gap is real money every single month, and it does not get old. Something worth knowing about tier 3 that people don't usually mention: there's a ceiling on what you can spend here, and it arrives sooner than you'd expect. Not because there's something to buy, but because past a certain point, especially in a provincial town, the things money buys start running out. You got the house, you got the vehicle, you eat well, you travel when you want to. The marginal value of additional spending drops off fast, and I genuinely mean that as a compliment to this place. It removes the pressure to keep spending just to feel like you're participating in life. You figure out pretty quickly what you actually wanted versus what you were filling space with back home. That is a useful thing to find out, and even if the method is a little unconventional. Now let's talk about the two things that will define whether your first year here is a good experience or a destabilizing one, regardless of which tier you're in. Startup costs. Moving to the Philippines is not free, and the first few months are not cheap. This is true even if your monthly budget looks comfortable on paper. Here's what you're actually paying for when you first arrive. Deposits. Most landlords here want 2 months deposit plus 1 month in advance when you sign a lease. On a 10,000 peso house, that's 30,000 pesos up front, somewhere between 492 to 517 at today's rates, before you've slept in the place once. On a 20,000 house, that's right, 60,000 pesos, close to $1,000 gone before you're even unpacked. It's not a scam, it's just how it works, and if it catches you off guard, it's going to put you behind immediately. So be sure you go into it thinking about it. Setting up a household, even if the place is furnished. Furnished in the Philippines often means a bed and ambitious optimism about what else you might need. You'll need to buy things, a decent fan for the room the AC doesn't reach, cookware, storage, a water dispenser, because tap water is not drinking water in most areas, and nobody's going to tell you that in the rental listing. A power strip, because the outlets here are not where you'd expect them, and you'll have more devices than you anticipated. None of these are expensive individually, but together they add up to somewhere between $300 and $800 in the first couple of months, depending on how set up you want to be and how much tolerance you have for figuring it out as you go. Now let's talk visa costs. Depending on which path you're on, there's going to be fees. If you're extending a tourist visa every 2 months while you sort out your long-term plan, that's a reoccurring cost with a side of occasional inconvenience built right in. If you're getting a 13A or a SRRV, they're one-time government fees that run from several hundred to over $1,000, depending on the category. These aren't monthly costs, but they're real and they come early. The number I tell anyone to have before they get on a plane is about 3 to 5,000 sitting in a separate account, not counted as monthly income, not counted as ongoing savings, just earmarked for the cost of arriving. If you spend less than that, good for you. But if you land here with just your first month's check and no setup cushion, your first few months are going to feel a lot less like an adventure and a lot more like triage. Now, the emergency fund. This is not exciting. I know it's not exciting, but I'm going to make you sit through it anyway, because the people who skip this part are the ones who send me messages later that start with, so something came up. Yeah. You know, in an ideal world, you want 3 months of your fully monthly expenses sitting in a liquid account before something goes wrong. At Tier 1, that's roughly $1,500 to $2,000. At Tier 2, $54,000 to $6,000. At Tier 3, more. These are not retirement savings. This is your buffer between a bad month and a genuinely bad situation. Here's what that fund is actually for. It's for the dental work that costs more than you expected, which it will. It's for the flight home when something happens with family that you can't explain away. It's for the appliance that dies during the typhoon season and needs replacing before the next one comes through, which it will, because typhoon season has a schedule. It's for the month your check is delayed or your bank freezes your card because it flagged a foreign transaction as suspicious and takes 10 business days to feel better about it. All of those things are real. All of them have happened to people I know here, some of them more than once. It'll happen to you, so be prepared for it. If you're at Tier 1 and saving feels impossible, even $50 to $100 a month is somewhere. The habit matters as much as the number when you're starting from zero. And getting started is the part that most people skip. Do not avoid it. One more thing that doesn't fit neatly into any tier but belongs in this conversation: exchange rates move. The 58 to 61 range I've been working from today is not a permanent condition. It's been different before, it's going to be different again. A meaningful shift in the rate is not hypothetical. It has happened within the last few years. It will happen again at some point, probably when it's least convenient. That's always when it happens, isn't it? Yeah. So if you're at the tight end of the tier 1, a rate move matters, and you should plan for it. If you're at tier 2 or above with a real emergency fund behind you, it's manageable. Build margin into your math and don't treat today's numbers like a contract. So here's where all of this lands. At $1,200 a month, you can live a real good life in the Philippines, but it needs to be a provincial life. Your startup costs need to be covered before you arrive. Your health insurance needs to be paid before you need it, because needing it first is a bad way to discover you don't have it. And some form of monthly savings needs to be happening, even if it's small. Arrive without those 3 things, and a decent monthly budget becomes a fragile one real quick. At $1,800 to $2,000 a month, the Philippines opens up considerably for you. Province or city, you've got comfort and flexibility and the margin to handle the months that don't cooperate. If, and this part matters, you're treating insurance and savings as fixed costs rather than things you get around to eventually. At $2,500 and above, you're free in the practical daily sense, the kind of free where you stop doing retirement math in your head every time you want to do something. But even at this tier, the guys who sleep well at night are the ones who built the cushion, covered the insurance, and don't confuse a good monthly number with a complete financial picture. The question I get more than any other is some version of, is my check enough? Hey, for most guys, it is, but only if you move here with the full picture and not just the monthly total. The Philippines is one of the most financially forgiving places on earth for a retiree on a fixed income. It rewards the people who plan, and it will locate the gaps in the plan of anyone who doesn't, efficiently and without much warning. So please, be sure to subscribe, slap a like on this video. Would love to hear your comments, so drop them down below. My monthly budget runs an average of about $875 here in the province, but I also don't pay rent, and I live here with my wife and children, with another one due any day now. Be sure to check out that video right here, and I'm going on 4 years now. That one's right here. Always remember, be excellent to each other, and this was never about the Philippines. It's about how you show up when you get here. Thanks for supporting the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.